Good afternoon, everybody. One group of 10th grade was this morning at 8:30, keeping us company, and I'm very proud of the questions. And that's the idea, to make this interactive. So first they're going to show a video to engage you. You're going to have their presentation, and then after the last 10 minutes, 15 minutes, the idea is to make this very interactive with your questions. So that's the idea. And so definitely, I think it's a topic that is of interest. All of you, it's called A Teenage Girl's Ideal of Woman and Man, reflected in the trilogies Divergent and 50 Shades of Grey. So Montserrat Bueno, Carolina Garcia, Maria Paula Valderrama, the audience is yours.
Well, hello everyone. I really hope you enjoyed the video. Now we're going to visually present our English project. So our question is, how do female and male characters presented in the trilogies 50 Shades of Grey and Divergent are a reflection of teenage girls' expectations of men and women? We arrived to this question after tons and tons and tons of questions and different problems we had, because we wanted a really broad topic, and we had to narrow it to this. So our specific questions and what our document is really about is how do the characteristics of women presented in the books 50 Shades of Grey and Divergent are similar to teenage girls' own characteristics? And how do the characteristics of men presented in the books 50 Shades of Grey and Divergent are similar to teenage girls' expectations of men? So we basically had 3 steps to achieve our final project, and first was the book analysis. We analyzed each of the 6 books and part of point 5 that is scored by Veronica Rath. And then we made a psychological analysis of the principal characters, which are Christine Grey and Anastasia Steele for the 50 Shades of Grey trilogy, and Tobias Eden or Ford, and Tris Pryor for Divergent. And after doing the psychological analysis and the book analysis, we finally get to the surveys that the 9th graders and 10th graders really helps us to finally get to a conclusion that we'll see forward in the presentation.
So, throughout history, books have evolved in many ways. Each book is determined by the age it was written, because they reflect the society of the time, they document the culture, and they show the human interaction of the time, taking account how they interact with men and women, what are the stereotypes of the time, what is expected of them at that time. Some examples of it are Romeo and Juliet from 1597, Pride and Prejudice from 1813, 1862, L'Exemple, and The Great Gatsby in 1925. These different books show the Roaring Twenties, the French Revolution. These books help us to have a better understanding of the past, and they teach us things so we can have a better future. But the question is, what about now? Can we do an analysis and evaluate our present time based on the books that have been published nowadays? Okay, nowadays we rank books in bestsellers. What is a bestseller? The word reference in my dictionary defines bestseller as a book that in a certain amount of time achieves a best-selling and national or international diffusion. These books are the ones that sell globally in a massive way, and that show that people want to read them. They are interested of what's inside, but why are they so interested in them? In her 2012 article, Courtney Carpenter wrote the 21 key traits of best-selling fiction. And then she said that all the bestsellers have certain things that are all the same. She analyzed Amazon reviews, and she saw that they had to have details for context, substance, a compelling style, the power of personal involvement, a sense of humor, but most of all, it had to be a writing that imparts a sense of well-being, a writing that provokes, and transcendence, heroism, love, honor, things that we want to have and to experience. So, when a writer starts a book, he has to determine what target that he wants. An adult, a kid, who are these books targeted to? Also, it has to see what genre. It can be fantasy, dystopian, erotic, crime, many different things. Because this book has to have characters that the target can be identified or that they can admire, and also a language that they can relate to. In our project, we're going to see 2 different trilogies of 2 different genres, the dystopian and erotic. I'm going to begin with the Divergent analysis. So, Divergent. Divergent is the story of a teenage girl of 16 years old called Tris Pryor. She lives in a society that, after a terrible war, society decided to divide the citizens into 5 factions: amity, abnegation, erudite, candor, and dauntless. Each member had to belong to the place where they thought they would contribute to peace. And each one valued something: bravery, honesty, intelligence, and selflessness. Why? Because they thought that the war was a result of either dishonesty, selfishness, cowardice, violence, or ignorance. So, when these teenagers get to the age of 16, they have to go through different trials, simulations, to see in what faction do they belong. Tris, when she does it, she has inconclusive results. She doesn't belong to just one faction country. Abnegation erudite and dauntless, the brave, the selfless, and intelligent. But she can only choose one, and she wants to only choose one because it's what her society told her to do. So, in the choosing ceremony, she has to decide, am I honest, or intelligent, or brave? What am I? At the end, after making decisions, she chooses dauntless. This is very relatable for teenage girls because we always have to make decisions. We have to see, what university do I want to have? What friends do I want to have? What characteristics do I want? This is something that we can relate because in any moment of our life we have to make major decisions that will define our future. When she gets to dauntless, she has to go through different trials and initiations so she can prove them that she does belong there. She jumps from a building, and she also has to go through 2 different tests, a physical and a mental one. In the physical, she has a lot of trouble because she's weak. She has never had to fight or anything, so she has a lot of struggle there. But when the time comes for the mental one, she shows her true strength. The problem with that is that by having an inconclusive result, it shows that she is divergent. In this world, what makes you different makes you dangerous. You can't be more than one thing, you can only be one. And in this trial, she can manipulate the simulations, and that is a side effect of being divergent. The thing about this is that when someone tells you you can only be one thing, it's because they want to pressure you to fit in a certain stereotype that society has told you that you have to fit in. You can't be spontaneous, you can't be special, you can't be many things because that is wrong. In the Solomon syndrome. Solomon syndrome was the conclusion that was taken from a Solomon experiment made by Solomon, an American psychologist. In this experiment, he told in a group of 8 people that they had to see this line and then say which of these lines have the same size. When you see them, you say like, duh, it's C. But the thing is that in this experiment, there were 8 people. 7 of them knew about the importance of the experiment and 1 didn't. The last one, the one that didn't know, was the last one to answer. When the first one said the right answer, the last one said the right answer. But the thing is that when they tell another answer, the last one always told the incorrect one. After this part of the experiment, then they asked them individually, and 98% of the results were correct. When they asked them, why did you change the answer? It says that when they were in a group, they changed their answer because they thought that the others had information they didn't have. And they didn't want to be mocked or ridiculed because they answered wrong because the others told the right correction, because I can have it correct if the other had it wrong. This experiment revealed that our lack of self-esteem and confidence, the belief that our worth as individuals depends on how much or how little people value us, and that we're part of a society that tends to condemn the talent and success of others. We have to fit and be all the same, because that is what is expected of us. We don't want to feel apart, we want to feel like a community. But the thing is that we shouldn't want to be just like the others. We can be a community, but we can value the things that make us special and unique. And when we see this fiction world, we think that they are just fiction, that they don't apply to us. But have you realized that the labels that we're categorized in our daily life, the athlete, the cheerleader, the nerd, can be seen like the dullest, erudite of the education? We're always labeled as one thing, because why should we be more? Can only be known by one. We can love science, but we can't love humanities, and things like that. But what really inspires us is to think differently. That we can be more than one thing, that we can be everything that we want to be in our lives. She inspires us to do many things for ourselves. Why we like Trish Cryer? Because she's a flawed character. We're tired of perfect characters that we will never be able to be like them. What have you seen in her story? She is from abnegation. Abnegation are the people that are totally selfless. They don't think about themselves. Vanity is horrible. And she had this struggle that she doesn't fit in. I left abnegation because I wasn't selfless enough, no matter how hard I tried to be. And then, at the beginning, she's like everyone else, saying like, I'm selfish and brave. If I'm brave, I can't be selfless. I can be only one thing. but she's more than that. The thing about Divergent is that they show us that the world has many problems, but that we can do something about it. It provokes in us a sense of, I can do something about it. I can see that maybe my government is not so perfect as they show me that it is. That maybe being different is a good thing. That I don't have to try to be something I'm not. Because if I'm more, then it's great. Tris, even with all her flaws, she has many, many things that make her a heroine. She defends her friends. She knows the value of sacrifice. A real sacrifice should be done for people who need your strength because they don't have enough of their own. She is like us because the thing about these characters is that we can relate to the flaws, because of course we don't want to be all that is true. We don't want to be stubborn. We don't want to be reckless, or well, I don't. But we can aspire to have their strength. We can admire those strengths. And even with all her guilt, can I be forgiven for all I have done to get here? She moves on. She learns from her mistakes, and that is what makes her so brave. I'm no longer treated selfless or treated brave. I suppose that now I must become more than either. She grows as character, and that is what we all have to do. The adolescence is a time when we are trying to find ourselves, that we want to see who we are. And the only way of doing that is making mistakes, doing things, and finally realizing who we want to be. So, in the book analysis, we saw that they have many flaws. She has low self-esteem, is impulsive, is impatient, stubborn, reckless, insecure, naive. She feels guilt. Maybe it's not what we want, but do we want to defend our own beliefs, be independent, open-minded, athletic, selfless, strong, loving, smart, moral? So many things that makes us see her as a hero, someone we can aspire to be like. Also, she feels the same things we feel. She feels happiness, loss, sadness. She falls in love. And isn't that what many teenagers want? To love and to feel loved? So, talking about love. We count for 4. Exactly. Who is 4? 4 is the love interest in the Divergent series. He begins as her structure, so first as someone that is trying to make her strong so she can pass initiation. But she is not only that, she sees her weaknesses and he reminds her of what makes her strong. Fear doesn't shut you down, it wakes you up. Also, at the beginning he is like, hide your divergence, it is dangerous, please hide it, but then he realizes that that is what makes her who she is and is what he loves about her. I love Tris the Divergent, who makes decisions apart from faction loyalty, who is in some faction archetype. And as I told you before, he also realizes that being divergent is a very wonderful thing. I think we have made a mistake. We have all started to put down the virtues of the other factions in the process of bolstering our own. I don't want to do that. I want to be brave and selfless and smart and kind and honest. Well, I consider it struggle with this, but you get the point. He doesn't want to be just one thing. He wants to be everything. He wants to aspire to be more than one thing. And well, they don't have a very normal relationship, but they're a team. They grow. They have a mutual understanding of love, and they strengthen each other. And that is something we can aspire to have. Also, as I told you, she's a very insecure person. She can be very strong and make decisions and fight and everything, but in her inside, she thinks she's not pretty enough. She thinks the guilt can make her think that she's worthless and everything. But he reminds her of the thing that he loves about her. I like how you look. You're deadly smart. You are brave. And she doesn't understand why Tobias is like her, or Tobias. But he tells her, like, I love you because of what you are, who you are. I fell in love with him, but I don't just stay with him, but default as if there's no one else available to me. I stay with him because I choose to. Every day that I wake up, every day that we fight or lie to each other, or disappoint each other, I choose him over and over again, and he chooses me. That is love. Like, understand that the other person has flaws and that I have flaws, but we can be together because we admire the other. And as a sign, Tobias has a strong personality, fights for what is right, is fiercely loyal, trustworthy, deadly smart, confident, illegal, always has a strategy of life. What is not to love about him? Like, seriously. Like, okay, he can be stubborn and everything, but in this book there's a reflection of the idea of what a man should be and what we like. Like, we want a strong man and not someone like treated as weak, because that is something about me. Tobias never treats Tris like if she's weak or small or inferior or as someone that has to be protected. No, he's by her side, treating her as an equal, as someone that is strong, and someone that is like him. Like, they're good together.
Now we're talking about 50 Shades of Grey. First, we have to take into account that this is not only a sex book, it goes beyond that. And we want you to go out of this presentation without that idea on mind. 50 Shades goes beyond sex and beyond BDSM, which is like the type of sex Christian practices at the beginning of the story with Anastasia. It goes beyond that. It goes beyond only torture and pleasure. It goes as a couple that learns from each other and that complements each other, and that at the end they love each other, they cherish each other, and they make a great team. They learn from each other and they love each other. So first we're going to meet Anastasia Steele. She is a really insecure person and she thinks she has a lot of flaws. At like the third chapter of the book, she is already saying that she doesn't deserve Christian's attention. I'm too pale, too skinny, too scrappy, uncoordinated, my long list of faults goes on. And let's face it, we all have a list of our flaws and what we have to change and what we have to be better at, but we never look at the things we have that makes us who we really are, and we just focus on our flaws and mistakes. Then she finally meets the famous Christian Grey. He is a really hot guy with a lot of money, a lot of power, he's really young, and it's basically every girl's dream. And she arrives there, and she's just overwhelmed by his beauty and the confidence and security he has over himself. Is it his looks, power? I don't understand my irrational reaction. With this, we can see that even though it's an adult's book, the characters are like a teenager. They think like a teenager. Like, we ask these things about boys we like, what do I like him? And there's when we see that Anastasia is falling in love or has a crush on Christian Grey for the first time. And here we can see that it's like the first evidence that 50 Shades of Grey goes beyond that. And it's that the characters are evolving and they are teenagers. When Christian Grey goes and visits Anastasia at her work, she just wonders, why is this handsome guy doing like on my store, like buying things like a normal guy when he for sure has people who buys them for them? And she just starts wondering if Christian likes her. But she is so insecure about herself that she doubts it every time. And here is when Christian starts to realize that something different happens every time with Anastasia, because she just wants to see her and to know what she thinks. And like, he feels like, like it's a constant defiance between both of them. So they arrange a photo shoot and they have like their official first date, which is a coffee. But guess what? The guy, after being really romantic and having everything perfect, he says to her, Anastasia, you should steer clear of me. I'm not the man for you. Here we can see that he is afraid of what he feels for her and that he just wants to like leave her out of his lifestyle because he feels something more than just the necessity to have sex with her. So like the first bravery act he has, and that is like our Prince Charming equivalent, is when he saves her. She is drunk and she is partying like many of us many times start to do at the age of 17, 18. And like, come on, let's face it, And he saves it, and she starts to think, he cares enough to me to come and rescue me from some mistakenly perceived danger. He's not a dark knight at all, but a white knight in shining dazzling armor, classic romantic hero, Sir Gawain or Sir Lancelot. So here's like the first evidence that for Anastasia, Christian begins to be a hero and not like the villain he said he was. So here is like the crush and just thinking about him and waiting to see him, because after that like they have the second date and he's going to explain everything his relationship is going to be about at his house that night. So again, Christian Grey, and she's still trying to decipher what's so attractive of him. So young and attractive, very attractive. He's tall, dressed in a fine gray suit, white shirt, and black tie, with unruly dark copper-colored hair and intense, bright gray eyes that regard me surely. It takes a moment for me to find my voice. Isn't he hot? I mean, come on, Erica James did a great job describing Christian Grey. So here he starts to explain, Anastasia, I'm not hearts and flowers kind of man. I don't do romance, but during the whole trilogy, he shows us the contrary. He fights for her, he cries for her, he suffers for her. I mean, isn't that love? Yeah, if you're not hearts and flowers, then I don't know what hearts and flowers are. He has his special way, of course, sometimes a real weird thing and controversial stuff, but he definitely gives hearts and flowers, come on, flying from Seattle to Vancouver to visit her and see her because he misses her. That's love. So we can see that even though Christian has a lot of flaws, he's obsessive, he's controlling, definitely intimidating, stubborn, impatient, compulsive, unworthy, and broken, which is a really important factor in these books. He has a lot of characteristics that we as girls love. He's loving, he's caring, he's loyal, he's attentive, he definitely is honest, he's athletic, he's intelligent, he's confident, ambitious, independent. So, he finally realizes that he's starting to feel something more for Anastasia. It's very hard to grow up in a perfect family when you're not perfect. That's one of the first steps that shows that he's growing as a character by the side of Anastasia. And he becomes a better person for her, but he doesn't realize he is doing it for himself as well, because he wants to be better for her, so she doesn't go away. So Anastasia is a really insecure girl, and we can see that throughout most of the books. But they have this email thing where she shows who she really is, and she is really great, and I think it's one of the favorite parts of the book of everyone, because she defies him, he challenges him, he insults him, he's just you know what, we're going to break up for email, and he's just really frustrating, but because when he doesn't have her in front of him, he doesn't have the control he wants of her, so he can't manipulate it with his charm. So the emails are really important because they actually show the development of both characters, because they don't have each other in front to distract each other, and they think objectively. So again, Anastasia has a real love self-esteem. It's really irresponsible. She gets pregnant because of that. She's insecure, she's clumsy, and she's naive. But she is an amazing girl as well. She has a strong character. She's understanding, thoughtful, intelligent, clever, feminine, curious, loving, sweet, loyal, moral, clear, sweet, and many others that you can't imagine. So Anna reflects how they are at the moment and what they are feeling. Adolescence is a time of insecurities and mistakes, a moment to try new things. This is what 50 Shades really shows, and everything is just behind the sex and the propaganda they have made to these wonderful books. So here you can see that Christian Grey is definitely a hearts and flowers man in his rich way, but he's definitely a flowers and hearts, he for the first time introduced Anastasia, a girl, to his family, and it was really hard for him. And it continues. He just wants her to stay, and he'll do whatever it takes for her to stay. And she is also willing to make sacrifices for him to love her and try to be the best girl he can ask for.
Okay, so we have already talked about the books, we have already talked about the stories, we have already talked about the characters. So now we're going to talk about the readers. These books are usually targeted to teenagers. Teenagers can relate to many different situations, like not fitting in, having problems of a low self-esteem, experiencing new feelings for a certain someone, or making big decisions. A teenager, psychologically, is defined as a person who is finding him or herself outside of the family. This means that her parents, his parents, are no longer going to be the ultimate control figure. They are going to try to go out to the world and find their own. So this is a stage where we are having a lot of changes, physical and emotional changes. So what do? We go to the world and try to experience new things. This is why sometimes some people may think as adolescence as a dangerous age. But it's actually not if you do it responsibly, because what you're doing is trying to find yourself. So you go out and experience new things. And this is how you will discover what you like, what you dislike, by finding pleasurable feelings. So when you have a pleasurable feeling, you're going to say, okay, I like this is good. And when you don't, well, you're going to say, I don't like this is not good. And you will ultimately build your own personality, find yourself, which is the ultimate goal of adolescence. That is why people go through adolescence, to find themselves. So we must ask ourselves, what makes a teenager have pleasant emotions? The answer is actually pretty easy. We just need to feel identified with someone, or something. Why? Because this is a stage in which we are having many different emotions. We are going through a lot of changes. So we feel like nobody can understand us. And sometimes nobody can understand us. So when we find someone or something that actually does, well, we feel at ease. And this is what happens with these books. These books show us characters that are going through the same things as we are. So they are falling in love, they are experiencing new things, they are finding the control figure, and they're having adventures. They're basically teenagers just like us. So we feel understood, and we like the book, and we have a pleasurable feeling. So we need to read the book. So why and how the characters of these books...
What do we know about the inner...
It's silly. Why and how the characters of these books can reflect what a young girl wants to be or already is. So, to answer this question, we must know that we live in society. It doesn't matter how different we are. When we live in a close group of people, like for example us, Pachas, we are going to have a certain similarities in the things that we like, in the things that we see as correct, in the things that we see as incorrect. And this is when stereotypes are created, when we have a fixed mental image of what a man or a woman or a society should be. So a close group of people will feel more related to characters that fit more respectively into what they see more often, what they read more often, and what they find correct. So an example of this could be the Disney princesses. Nowadays, I don't think any of you is going to tell me that you feel related to these girls. Because you don't. That is not what is expected of you today. Today, women are expected to be strong, women are expected to be independent, women are expected to be able to do everything without a man by their side. So what do? We feel identified with a woman that can question everything, that is exploring herself, her sensuality, with a woman that is brave, that can go outside of the box and be different. And exactly the same happens with men. We are not going to look for a man who is going to be all worried about how he looks, or that thinks that he is like better than us, but instead we will feel attracted to a strong, powerful man who will definitely push us to do better every time. which is what we were saying that Tobias and Christy Gray had. So, us teenagers are searching for our identity. That, as I told you, is the ultimate goal of adolescence. Find your identity. So, we definitely need a role model. And let's face it, our parents are no longer that role model. So, so we are going to go outside to the world and find a new role model. But we need a good role model. How do we know if a role model is a good role model? Well, easy. He or she is approved by society. We are going to, as we said, try to fit in. That is what we want. We want to fit in. How do you fit in? By being accepted. By whom? By your peers. So, if someone is socially accepted, you will probably see him as a good role model. So bestsellers tend to have this accepted by society role models. As I told you before, a strong, independent woman and a man who knows that a woman is equal as him. Our project was targeted to girls between the ages of 16 to 18. What exactly is happening inside your head in this age? Well, for starters, your front lobe has finished its development. What does this mean? That your actions are going to be better guided. So, the executive part of your brain is going to be better shaped. So you're going to know when to act good and when to act bad. And the thing is that you're not going to do it just to be socially accepted. But you're going to do it because you're acting as the person that you want to be. So you're going to say, what? So what does these characters have to do? Because if we're forming our own personality, then these characters role models. They're not role models. Well, here's what happens. The characters shown in the books will stop being your role model only because you want to be socially accepted. But they will become a guidance for your actions because you will feel identified with them. Then you will realize that they are socially accepted people, which will make you want to accommodate all their flaws, all their, no, not their flaws, they're not flaws, and accommodate it to what you are. So basically, here's what happens. You have tons of emotions right now. You're having lots of changes and you feel like nobody can understand you. So you go to the world and try to experience new things. So you can find yourself and find what makes you actually happy. So you really need a role model for that. So you can feel at ease. After that, you find one of these books and you see a pair of characters which are going through exactly the same situations as you are. They are falling in love, they're going through adventures, they're making big decisions, so you feel identified with them. After that, you realize that they are socially approved people. And your front lobe is going to start to work. So you're going to take what's good about them and make it your own. So you're going to accommodate it to the person you are and find yourself. So this is what happens when you read these books.
So after going through stages 1 and 2 of our projects, which is analyzing the books and do a psychological analysis as well, we finally get the results. So we surveyed patches from 9th and 10th grade because they were between the ages we wanted. And we basically, on the PF16 test, which is a psychologically test that tests the personality of the person through different questions. So we basically did this test pretending we were the characters of the story after analyzing them. And we got a list of characteristics of them. And we just put them on paper and made the girls mark what things do you look in a guy or what things you don't like in a guy. And these were the results. So 100% of the girls that we surveyed look for a man that's intelligent, that's controlled, helpful, loyal, assertive, trustworthy, understanding, trusty, honest, and sweet. 95% of them look for an athletic, thoughtful, calm, prudent, warm, self-confident, no-controlling, a man that loves children and that defends his beliefs. 90% of them look for a deliberate, patient, independent, and with a strong personality. 85% looks for a man that's willing to receive compliments. Guys, listen to this. 80% look for a masculine and no solitary guy. 75% look for a non-stubborn, refined, self-sufficient, unpredictable, and no reckless man. 65% of them looks for a serious and competitive man. 60 look for an ambitious, introspective, sober, and no perfectionist guy. And 55% look for a jealous, calculated, and unsystematic guy. So, we have for our Tobias. And he has all of these characteristics that more than 50% of the girls look for. He's thoughtful, energetic, he loves children, he's patient, independent, he has a strong personality, he's self-sufficient, unpredictable, he's not reckless, he's serious, competitive, sober, he's non-perfectionist, he's intelligent, helpful, loyal, trustworthy, honest, sweet, self-confident, not aggressive, calm, defends his beliefs, he's athletic, calculating, and unsystematic. Let's face it, he's almost a perfect man for us. And the same applies for Christian Grey. He's intelligent, helpful, loyal, trustworthy, honest, sweet, understanding, self-confident. He defends his belief. He is athletic, definitely energetic. He loves children. He's non-septic. He's patient, independent. He has a strong personality. He's refined, self-sufficient, unpredictable, ambitious and sober. He's jealous. He's calculating and unsystematic. Then, we did the same for the girls. We asked them which characteristics you think you have. And we had a list of 71 characteristics, and the girls marked what they think they have and what they think they didn't. So 100 to 70% of the girls think they are helpful, joyful, they defend their beliefs, they are loyal, feminine, they love children, they are honest, insecure, understanding, open-minded, impatient, warm, trustworthy, loving, generous, active, considerate, pessimistic, looks forward, optimistic. And 70 to 55% think that they are independent, athletic, thoughtful, energetic, sweet. They have a strong personality, serious, expressive, ambitious, responsible. They have high self-expectations of themselves. They are affectionate, sober, humble, headstrong, proud, influential. They are non-conformist, pleasing, objective, confident, adaptable, altruistic, tolerant, competitive, liberal, believers, self-conscious, easily frustrated, not just goaded, rational, gentle, uncalculated, impatient, and considerate. And then less than half of our girls think they are willing to receive compliments, which shows that we lack of self-conscious and this shows that we have really low self-esteem. We are assertive, unpredictable, unsystematic, reckless. Only 25% of the girls follow rules. Listen to this. They were really honest. So they're compulsive, perfectionist, passive, and only 50 to 25% consider them intellectual, which is also like a proof of low self-esteem that we have. So our girls have, as you can see, many of the characteristics we have. I'm not going to name them all because they're really long list. But we can see that they are not so different from us because they have more than 50% of the characteristics we as girls think we have. And the same happens with Chris. Why low self-esteem and insecurity are here? It's because even though Tris and Anastasia eventually have low self-esteem and are insecure, as the story advances, they gain that security of themselves and they think they are strong enough and they are capable of doing everything. So this is also like a challenge for us that we can see that we can be self-confident and gain security.
Okay, so after all of this work, we realized some things. Through the study of 4 books, we can judge history and we can learn from the past so we can build a better future. But that we can do it as well with books. Through the study of books like 50 Shades of Grey and Divergent, teenagers can learn a lot about their present time, can begin to understand themselves, and based on that, can work to improve themselves for the future. We can see that books can be many things, sometimes boring, sometimes worse. But if you give a chance to yourself to read them, then you will discover many things, and you may learn a lot of things that will make you better and make you more happy and things that you will love.
Also, we concluded that through the characters, we can see all the flaws, for example, of the government, we can see the flaws of intimate relationships, and we can see a society that wants more gender equality. Also, we concluded that with characters that are a human portrait that reflect us, showing us as the flawed creatures that we are, but also as the creatures who want to thrive and create wonderful things for themselves.
So our final conclusion was, adolescence is a time for countless of questions, a time for immense personal growth. Luckily, now we know that for us to be able to grow and to learn, we do not have to go looking for information too far away. All the answers we need can be found in the nearest bookstore.
So now we can ask you, have you ever wondered if book characters are a reflection of your story? Thank you very much for your attention. So we have a few minutes for questions if you have some.
I'm sure we have many.
Yes.
The second advantage I
Feel
don't have
free.
is that 5 minutes would be great.
You talk about fitting society, but I think that there's a way that it's not fitting society. Have you ever feel identify with the character that doesn't fit in society?
Like you mean like a no best-selling book? Yes. We actually wondered that, and at the beginning, when we were deciding what this project was going to be about, we kind of considered making bestsellings of the past, like taking Romeo and Juliet and things that are definitely not commercial right now, but that are books that you just feel are really old and you're just never going to read in your life because you prefer to see the movie that Hollywood made for you. So we actually wondered that, and I've read some books, Monse has read some books, and Kado has read some books as well, of that kind of books, and we realized that they are not so different, just that they are like more into that era thing, like more courtly love and things like that, but definitely we can do the same analysis with these books.
Also, what happens with books that are not so, like for example, these bestsellers? Sometimes they have characters that are much more deep. They have like a different kind of story because the author is not trying like to sell you the character, but to show you a character. So sometimes it's like a psychotic man who went out and murdered 3 women. Well, I'm not going to feel identified with him, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to like the book. So.
Keep on, please. Right now, I'm more interested in your questions because I have some minutes after with Diana and we can ask them the questions in private, but right now let's take advantage of this very good work.
I have a question. You said that like the goal of adolescence is to sort of fit in, but like many times, like a lot of times when you read these kind of books, the characters don't really care about fitting in. And like for example, that happens in writers like Hunger and even in Divergent, where they just don't care about what is said of them and what is like done to fit in because they cannot fit in. So like why would you feel identified with that and we are trying to fit in?
Well, what happens with these characters, they are not trying to fit in. But nowadays, like, not fitting in is cool. Not fitting in is fitting in. So being different is what nowadays is a good stereotype. For example, what we said about the girls, they're rule breakers, and that's the stereotype that we have today. A girl that like doesn't really care much about that fitting in. But that is like our stereotype of the woman that we want to be today. So it's sort of a bit contradictory, but
Like basically nowadays, not fitting in, it's actually fitting in and defying what everyone says is what everyone wants you to do. So it's kind of like what? But it's what happens right now.
Yeah, like we had that same question when we did like, but we're contradicting. But the thing that after analyzing the psychological part is that we have a conscious and unconscious part of ourselves, and our conscious part is like, no, I have to not fit in and everything. But in our unconsciousness, we need to fit in. Yeah, like to be part of something. But as Kara said, this thing to be is not really me.
Like also it's like our more like really old thing that's called instinct, and our instinct is to survive, and to survive you have to fit in. So not fitting in, it's fitting in right now.